The man who silenced the Mahatma, Nathuram Godse, proclaimed in court, "I do say that my shots were fired at the person whose policy and action had brought wrack and ruin and destruction to millions of Hindus." Indeed, the 29th of January in the year 1948 marked a dark day in history. It was a day that witnessed the extinguishing of a beacon of peace and non-violence, Mahatma Gandhi, at the hands of Nathuram Godse, an advocate of Hindu nationalism. Godse's act was not born of a moment's rage. Rather, it was a calculated move, a chilling culmination of a deep-seated resentment and ideological clash. Godse, an ordinary man turned assassin, believed he was acting in the best interests of his co-religionists. He held Gandhi responsible for the perceived humiliation and injustice Hindus had to endure during the partition of India. In his mind, Gandhi's policies favored the Muslims at the expense of the Hindus, leading to the displacement and death of millions. Godse's worldview was shaped by his association with Hindu nationalist organizations. He viewed the partition of India as a severe blow to Hindu pride, a direct result of Gandhi's appeasement policies. This belief, coupled with his conviction that Gandhi was single-handedly responsible for the partition, set him on a path of retribution. His resentment towards Gandhi was not merely political. Godse also took issue with Gandhi's personal philosophy and lifestyle, which he saw as an affront to traditional Hindu values. He considered Gandhi's advocacy for communal harmony and his attempts to reform Hindu society as a betrayal of Hindu interests. Yet, Godse's act was not met with universal approval. Many, including those who shared his religious and political leanings, were horrified by his actions. They saw it as a violent betrayal of the very values that Gandhi had fought for, and a disgrace to the Hindu community. The path to that fateful day was paved with ideological clashes and a deep-seated resentment. This was not a spontaneous act of violence, but a chilling testament to the lengths one man would go to uphold what he believed to be the honor and dignity of his community. A staunch Hindu nationalist, Godse's journey towards becoming the man who assassinated Gandhi was a tumultuous one. Born in a small town of Baramati in Pune, Nathuram Godse was raised in a highly political environment. His father was a postal employee, but was also an active member of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, a right-wing Hindu nationalist paramilitary volunteer organization. Godse grew up imbibing these ideological teachings, which would later play a significant role in shaping his political beliefs. As a young man, Godse joined the Hindu Mahasabha, a right-wing Hindu nationalist organization. Here, he found an outlet for his growing disillusionment with Gandhi's policies. He believed that Gandhi's approach to the British, his insistence on non-violence, and his willingness to negotiate with the Muslim League were all detrimental to the Hindu majority in India. Godse's resentment towards Gandhi intensified following the bloody partition of India in 1947, which he blamed on Gandhi's conciliatory stance towards the Muslim League. He was particularly incensed by Gandhi's decision to fast until death unless the Indian government paid Pakistan an agreed sum of 55 crores, which India was withholding due to the outbreak of the First Indo-Pak War. This event was the final trigger for Godse. He saw Gandhi's actions as a betrayal of the Hindu community. He believed that Gandhi was favoring the Muslim minority at the expense of the Hindu majority, and this belief led him down a dark path. In his mind, Gandhi had become a threat to Hindu unity and the newly independent India. The only solution, as he saw it, was to eliminate this threat. This was a radical and violent departure from his earlier belief in political activism, but Godse was convinced that it was the only way to protect the interests of the Hindu majority. Godse was convinced that Gandhi's policies favored the Muslim minority at the expense of the Hindu majority. On January 30, 1948, Gandhi's life was brutally cut short by Godse's bullets. The day had begun like any other. Gandhi, the beacon of peace and unity, was on his way to his regular prayer meeting at Birla House in New Delhi. Unbeknownst to him, lurking in the crowd was Nathuram Godse, a man with a plan so sinister it would shake the foundations of a newly independent India. As Gandhi, with his grandnieces at his side, started his slow walk towards the prayer grounds, Godse stepped forward. He bowed in respect, a gesture that momentarily disguised his deadly intent. Before anyone could comprehend what was happening, Godse pulled out a Beretta semi-automatic pistol and fired 3 shots at point-blank range. The echoes of the gunfire reverberated through the air, followed by a deafening silence. In an instant, the father of the nation had fallen, leaving behind a stunned crowd and a nation on the verge of chaos. The bullets had not only pierced Gandhi's frail body, but also the heart of a country that had looked to him for guidance and hope. As the news of the assassination spread like wildfire, a wave of shock and disbelief swept across India. People huddled around radios, their faces etched with grief, listening to the repeated broadcasts confirming the unthinkable. The man who had led them to freedom, who had become an emblem of non-violence and peace, was no more. Amidst the pandemonium, Godse made no attempt to flee. He was immediately seized by members of the crowd and handed over to the police. His act of violence had ended one chapter of history, but it had also begun another. Godse's capture marked the start of a trial that would not only decide his fate, but also force the nation to confront the deep-seated communal tensions that had led to this tragic event. Godse was immediately seized, setting the stage for a trial that would shake the nation. As Godse stood in the dock, he laid bare his motivations and justifications for his act. The trial of Nathuram Godse, the man who assassinated Mahatma Gandhi, was one steeped in controversy. As he stood before the judges, Godse remained unflinching, his conviction unwavering. He was not just a man on trial for murder, but also a symbol of a fractured nation grappling with its newfound freedom. Godse presented his defense, not cowering, not pleading, but defiantly justifying his actions. He argued that Gandhi's policies favored the Muslim minority at the expense of the Hindu majority, fostering resentment and sparking violent conflicts. His words, while shocking to many, resonated with some, exposing the deep-seated communal tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface of Indian society. He held the courtroom in a grim fascination as he detailed his motivations, his words echoing through the hallowed halls of justice. He claimed that he was not a man consumed by hatred, but a patriot driven by love for his country. He believed that he was doing what was necessary for the greater good of India. His lack of remorse was chilling, his resolve unbroken. His defense was a stark reflection of the ideological divide that had torn the country apart. His words were not just an admission of guilt, but also a scathing critique of Gandhi's policies. He painted a picture of a nation betrayed, of a people left to suffer the consequences of decisions made by those in power. The trial was a spectacle that captured the nation's attention. It was more than just the judgment of a man, it was a judgment of an ideology, of a way of thinking that had led to one of the darkest days in India's history. Godse's final words in court were a damning indictment of Gandhi's policies. His words, delivered with a chilling calm, left a profound impact on the nation, forcing people to confront the harsh realities of a divided society. His trial, much like his act, remains a controversial chapter in India's history. Godse's act and his subsequent trial have left an indelible mark on India's history. The legacy of that fateful day continues to resonate, shaping the discourse around nationalism and secularism in the nation. Nathuram Godse, a man who started as a staunch Hindu nationalist, ended up becoming the person who silenced the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. His act, motivated by a deep-seated belief in his version of nationalism, sparked a firestorm of controversy that still rages to this day. Godse's trial was a turning point in India's history. It was a moment that lay bare the stark divide between two different ideologies, one that championed secularism and unity in diversity, embodied by Mahatma Gandhi, and the other that advocated for a religion-centric nationalism, embodied by Godse. This trial was more than just about Godse's act. It was a trial of his ideology, and by extension, a trial of India's ethos. In the years that followed, the legacy of Godse's act and his trial has seeped into the fabric of the nation. The debates around nationalism and secularism that were ignited during his trial continue to shape India's political and societal landscape. The questions asked then are still being asked today. What does it mean to be a nationalist? Does secularism weaken or strengthen a nation? Godse's act was a dark chapter in India's history, but it's a chapter that we cannot ignore. It serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of fanaticism and the importance of upholding the values of unity and diversity. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, the lessons from this chapter of history are more relevant than ever. Godse's final words in the court were a chilling indictment of his belief system. They were a testament to his unflinching conviction in his ideology, a conviction that led him down a path of destruction. The echoes of Godse's final words still reverberate in the corridors of history, a chilling reminder of a dark day,